It's great to be with you to discuss the topic of voting. How is a Christian supposed to vote? Can a Christian vote for a non Christian? Both are very important questions with an upcoming presidential election, and I've gotten tons of questions about it. First and foremost, America is a unique country. As a constitutional republic, all citizens have the opportunity to vote for leadership in this country. In other words, American citizens are part of the government. This is a great responsibility. It means that when we go to the polls, when we go to the points where we vote, we are using our minds and logic to select our leadership from a Christian worldview as Christ followers. Ultimately, the selected leadership will correspond with what we as citizens deem to be best. Policies and people will then be put into place in accordance with the platform that the elected ran upon. That's a simplified version of what it looks like for all of us when we vote and when we select a leader. But what about the Christ follower and non-Christians running for office? Can the Christian vote for them? Should the Christian vote for a non-believer? This is where our Christian worldview comes into play. And remember that our form of government is very unique with citizen participation. First and foremost, a Christian can participate in elections and should participate in elections. We have to remember that first and foremost, God, as he says in Acts 17 verse 26, has placed all persons where they are. And he has placed Christians in the United States in a place where they can vote in their elections for their leadership. It is therefore their duty, because God has placed them there, to participate in elections. Doing so is a form of loving your neighbor, choosing people and policies that honor the things that glorify God, because those things all people will benefit from all types of people and policies that seek to glorify God. Secondly, if you agree that Christians have a duty to vote, then what about voting for these non-believers? Well, regarding this, elections are not and should not be personality contests. They are policy contests. Because the person being elected, the president, for example, only serves for a limited period of time, but the policies can last for decades. Therefore, even with non-Christians, the Christian voter has the duty to vote in a manner that most exemplifies what the Lord would desire, even in less than optimum choices. Now, at this point, I want to borrow an example that was given by Dr. Robert Gagnon. And using that example, it goes something like this. Imagine that you and your family are interred in a prison camp. And in this prison camp, for some reason, you are able to vote for the guard who will oversee you and your family in this camp. One guard is morally depraved. He's not a very upright citizen, but nonetheless, he's very kind to all the prisoners, and he never harms any of them, either mentally or physically, as long as they follow the rules of the prison. The other guard, on the other hand, he acts well around others, but in private, he treats the prisoners cruelly, both mentally and physically, beating them and harming them. Now remember, you can vote for one or the other. In reality, you have three choices. You can vote for the kind one, and your family is unharmed. You can vote for the hypocritical one, who looks good to the public, but your family gets harmed significantly. Or you can abstain, and you may get the good guard or the bad guard. Which should the Christian do? In reality, it only comes down to two choices: the guard that will treat you well, or abstain. Since God values life and goodness, the choice should be the guard that will not harm the family. Now, some might think that to abstain is the best choice because neither choice is very good. But one is certainly better than the other, and one will certainly not put your family in a harmful situation. Denying that ability of voting that was given if you abstain is probably not to do what God desires. I know the example is not perfect and your mileage may vary, but it does help to look at this regarding elections. For example, I've heard a number of times in this particular election, you can either vote for Baal or Molech. But this is what I believe is called a false equivalence. Number one, neither are demons, nor are they equally bad. Moreover, as Christians, one must look not at it as a personality contest, but which one has the policies that most honor God? Because the policies will last, the people will not. Long after the rhetoric has died down, the policies will be recorded and set into place, perhaps for decades or even longer. It is the choice between the prison guards. But in this case, it is the prison guard who is morally defective, but whose policies support more the Christian ethic, or the other guard that is nice to the public, but whose policies support the things that God hates. Remember, it is not a sin to vote for one who is the least worse. To abstain would be to take the chance that you will get the cruel guard and the policies that will affect you and your family's family for decades to come. Again, this is my opinion, having thought long about it as a Christ follower, and therefore I recommend that you approach the election with a Christian worldview, with prayer, trusting in the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. Go forth and be well. God bless you.